I'm Walter D. Donnie Kennedy, co-author of The South Was Right. And for the next few minutes, we're going to talk about Chapter 2 in The South Was Right. Just give you a few points on what's going on. Chapter 2 is entitled The Yankee Empire's Myth of History. Dr. Grady McWhinney, a well-known conservative and American historian, once said, quote, "What passes as standard American history is really Yankee history written by New Englanders or their puppets to glorify Yankee heroes and ideas," end quote. Dr. McWhinney hit the nail square on the head. Ron and I, when we wrote The South Was Right, we wanted to expose some of these myths and let the American people in general, and the Southern people in particular, to understand that there's a lot of myths out there. Myths such as, one of the things we hear very often is that the South fought the war to keep their slaves. Now, of course, this overlooks the fact that the Republican Party and Lincoln offered protection to the Southern slaveholders if they would only remain in the Union. Isn't that amazing? The vast majority of Confederate soldiers were non-slaveholders. Does it make sense that they would be willing to die just so another rich man, or a rich man in essence, could own a slave? I don't think so. We would say in Mississippi and in Louisiana that doesn't pass the sniff test. There's more to this issue of the war than just slavery. Another myth that we often hear is that Lincoln saved the Union. Now that is a total fabrication. Lincoln didn't save the Union. Lincoln destroyed the Union. The Union that was created for us by our founding fathers was a union of consent, of sovereign states, free people in sovereign states working together for their mutual benefit. They freely entered the Union, and they understood that they had the right to freely leave the Union. So Lincoln didn't save the Union. He destroyed the Union of the Founding Fathers and gave us a union of coercion and violence. Remember, if you can't leave, you're not free. Are we truly free today if we cannot leave this so-called Union? Another one of those great myths is that Lincoln freed the slaves. How many times have we heard this? And people will point to the Emancipation Proclamation and say, "See, look, Lincoln freed the slaves." Have you ever read the Emancipation Proclamation? It clearly states right at the beginning that this is a war measure, not a measure to offer freedom. It was a measure to put pressure on the South to come back into the Union. That document clearly states if the Southerners would merely go back into the Union, put down their arms, quit fighting for their independence, and come back under the Union that was created by Lincoln, that they could keep their slaves. Even slaves already under the authority of the Union, none of these slaves were even touched by that proclamation. No, that proclamation did not free any slaves. As a matter of fact, Lincoln said early on in a letter to the Vice President of the Confederacy, Alexander Stephens, that slaves in the South would be as secure and protected in his administration as they were in George Washington's administration. So you see, there's a lot of mythology that we touch on about the South in American history. Take a look at Chapter 2, The Yankee Empire's Myth of History. This is in The South Was Right, and you can check it out on a Kindle reader at Amazon, or if you want an autographed copy while they last, you can get them at victoryflagsandmore.com. That's victoryflagsandmore.com.